Hello everyone and welcome back to another OPTC Cruise video. We're going to go through the final boss in Intrusion if you have both Hack as well as Koala, but you don't have Sabo. I'll also show my teams which do use Sabo, but there's not much happening on those teams. So this is the main problem. If you don't have your own Sabo, things do become a bit more complicated. So these teams are going to show you how to get through it. The final boss isn't too bad. The Intrusion is quite difficult if you don't have the Koala and Hack, but since this video is in the case of having them, you have two Revolutionary Army tag units, which really helps on the Intrusion fight. All you need is one other character with the tag to get the chain boundary from Sabo's Captain effect. But I digress. Let's get into the final boss team here using Kaku and Lucci, of course, with the friend captain Sabo. So Kaku and Lucci actually synergize really well with Sabo. They're both fighter based, so they synergize in that regard. And in terms of the supports, you don't need the buggy support or the Karasu support if you don't have them. It just means that you have to play the second stage a teeny bit differently. Those supports are just there for bind reduction. But as we know, Hancock's special, it reduces bind based on how many recovery orbs you've consumed. So on turn 2, when we have 3 recovery orbs, if you don't have the supports, just consume another recovery orb. It'll allow you to get more bind reduction for the final stage, meaning you won't need the supports. But personally, I want to use the maximum speed possible, so I would just consume 1 recovery orb to get around the hunger stack, as well as start off the chain, and then kill off with your friend Captain Sabo. But you can just consume another recovery orb if you don't have Buggy or you don't have Karasu. If you like both of them, you have to consume 3 recovery orbs, which is going to be very difficult. But it is still possible. It just means that for your entire left column, even Sabo, you'll have to consume the recovery orbs, and then you can kill using Hack or Koala and Kaku Lucci. But either way, start off in the quick form of Lucci and Kaku, and this is how the team is going to go. Stage 1, you have to kill with your right column units. You need the expansion of your Hancock to give you left column recovery orbs at the start of the quest. Of course, on stage 1, you want to preserve those orbs for the second stage, where we can use it to get around the stack of hunger. And as for the ship, if you want another turn of bind reduction, you can also use the ship or the Sunny-kun ship, I think, for a turn of bind reduction. At stage 2 here, we get a turn of fear, 6 turns of special bind, 6 turns of attack down, and a stack of hunger. And the enemy is immune to just defense down. So we're going to use the special of Kaku and Lucci. They will reduce the attack down, all turns of it, as well as provide a chain boundary effect. And most importantly, they enter their dual form, which does alter their captain ability in a very significant way. In their singular forms, they state that in Lucci's form, when the enemy has a damage reduction, he will reduce its effect by 70% and give us an attack boost. In Kaku's form, he reduces the enemy's threshold by 70% instead of damage reduction, and gives us an orb boost instead of an attack boost. But if you're in their dual form, they give both of these effects, which is very important because this boss has both damage reduction and threshold on the final stage. So we need to make sure that Kaku and Lucci is in their dual form. So stage 2, use their special, and they will last for 3 turns. They'll stay in their dual form for the final stage where you need it. Besides that, you also need to swap and use the special of Mihawk and Perona for the special bind reduction. And since the enemy doesn't have immunity to negative, it'll also give you a conditional attack boost. So with that, you'll have a conditional boost from Mihawk and Perona, as well as a chain boundary from the Kaku and Lucci special. You could also use Koala at this point, because we don't really need to use her on the final stage of this fight. So that would also give you an orb boost. Although if you want speed, you don't even need to use Koala. Then on the final stage, we can use and make sure that you first consume a recovery orb on your left column units. I just put the left column units as the weakest characters because they won't be dealing damage. So if you want to attack with Hack and Koala and Kakuluchi and still deal a lot of damage, make sure the positions are exactly as is here. And then on the final stage, we'll get a bunch of bind, and the enemy will of course have the damage reduction, threshold, and defense up. The thing is that Hancock is supposed to be the main character to get around the bind as well as the damage reduction and threshold. But we don't have her, of course, so we're gonna have to use supports, and then of course the Kaku and Luchi's captain ability. So third stage here, what you want to do is use Hancock special. Yeah, Hancock special. This Hancock, the Parking Adventures one. She will reduce 2 turns of bind since we used up a recovery orb on stage 1. And then she'll also set the enemy's defense to 0, allowing us to get around the defense up. She will also give the enemy resistance down, which is kind of irrelevant, not much of an impact on our damage either way. And then you can use the special of your friend Captain Sabo, and also his super type. Since we have revolutionary army characters on the crew, we can use Sabo's super type. That'll give us a color affinity boost and buff the attack and all boost from Luchi and Kaku's captain ability, boosting them both up to a 2.65x attack and all boost. And of course we have super type, making our dex unit hit even harder. Sabo special will reduce the 6 tons of attack down we get again on the final stage, and then you'll also give us a chain growth rate buff and also a enemy weakness, which we can only get if you use Hack. So you can first use Hack and then use Sabo special, because Hack will provide us with a tap timing bonus effect, which will allow us to get the weakness from Sabo special. Yeah, so if you want to get the maximum damage, use Koala on stage 2 and then Hack on the final stage. The one thing you want to avoid, do not use Hack special on the second stage. He will shuffle the recovery orbs away, and we won't be able to get around the hunger stacks. So of course they want you to use the God Valley Garp to get around the hunger stacks, but you really don't need it. You can just use the Sailor of Hancock. Make sure she is expanded. So then of course the 9 turns of bind goes down to 6 with sockets, then down to 4 with Hancock, down to 2 with the buggy support, down to 1 with Karasu support, and then down to 0 with the ship. Once again, if you don't have the supports or you don't have the ship, just consume more recovery orbs on stage 2. You will have them. Then as for the and all the damage boosts you'll have a 2.65x attack boost, a 2.65x orb boost, a 2.5x color affinity, enemy percent resistance down, and of course type and class advantage, and of course super type from Sabo. Okay, then on the Intrusion. So this one is a lot more simple if you of course have the rare recruits, because it allows you to get the chain boundary from Sabo's captain ability. So Sabo states that if you have 4 or more revolutionary army tag units on the crew, which includes himself, so that's only 3 other units, then he will give you a 3.5x minimum chain boundary for 5 turns. So this will last for stage 1 and stage 2, as well as the preemptive of stage 3, which is very important, as you'll see in a moment. So on stage 2 and on stage 3 we have chain minimum attack downs, and also a full border block orbs, which are locked for a turn. And then if you use any chain multiplier boost or chain additive boost or chain lock, it will get reduced by 2 turns. So they're essentially saying you have to have Sabo, because his chain boundary will not be reduced by 2 turns because it was activated on stage 1. This effect only applies to abilities activated after we get inflicted with this. So we need to make sure that we have that 4 revolutionary army tag units to get the 5-turn chain boundary from Sabo, which will become 4 turns after the stage 1 preemptive. It will be 2 turns on stage 2, and then it will be 1 turn as we move into the 3rd stage, which, even though it won't last until the final stage in terms of allowing us to get more damage on the final stage, it will persist long enough to prevent the enemy from inflicting us with the chain lock of 1.1x on the final stage of 12 turns. So it's kind of weird how preemptives work, but your 2-turn chain boundary on stage 2 will reduce by 1 turn, going down to 1 turn as you enter the final stage. The enemy will conduct its preemptive, which includes this weak chain lock. But since you already have a chain lock or chain boundary active, this effect will not go into play. And then the preemptive will end, and your chain lock or chain boundary from Sabo will go away. So you'll still lose your chain boundary, but you won't have to deal with the chain lock anymore, which is very important. Then we have a chain coefficient reduction of reducing your chain growth by 0.1. And then we also have to deal with an enemy resilience of 6 turns and a delay immunity. Okay, that was a mouthful. But either way, so what we're doing here is, of course, Nami and Karina captain. The only reason I wasn't using a Nami Karina captain on this fight is because we are using Nami and Karina on our mini boss teams. But for the intrusion, of course, you can use any character. It doesn't need to be unique, a character that you haven't used on other teams. This fight is really easy if you do have the Revolutionary Army units. All you have to worry about is the block orbs, but Hack shuffles them away. Wait, let me just quickly check what is the exact sequence of specials we are using here. So stage 1, kill normally, of course. Stage 2, you want to use Hack to shuffle the block orbs and reduce the enemy's defense up. The enemy does have defense up, of course. Oh yeah, and then we also have to deal with a Dex 2 Dex or barrier that lasts for 3 turns. And the enemy will make every single orb that you hit with, besides tandem, much weaker. So they want you to have Dex orbs to get past the barrier, but if you have Dex orbs, you're going to be dealing less damage. It's very illogical. Of course they want you to use Hack because he gives you 2 Dex orbs and gives the rest of your characters tandem orbs. So it's just how it works. This character is going to be very beneficial to have. And of course, reducing the defense up is really nice. For him, you also need 4 Revolutionary Army tag units. And now that I think about it again, you actually don't have to worry about Hack shuffling away the orbs on this team, because you won't have your 4 Revolutionary Army tag units. So Hack won't shuffle those orbs away on stage 2. You could also use him on stage 2 if you wanted to. But for this team though, he is going to allow us to get around that on stage 2, the block orbs, and also the orb barrier and the enemy's orb weakening effect. Then on the final stage, and of course we'll have a chain boundary so we can get around the chain minimum attack down very easily. You can also use the super swap and special of your Nami and Karina for an attack boost, and also a chain boundary, not a chain boundary, a base attack boost, and also a bunch of G-orbs. If you don't have Hack, or you don't have 4 Revolutionary Army tag units, so you're missing Morley maybe, then just use the Nami and Karina swap effect. It will change the block orbs into G, which are going to be very strong. You really don't need Hack. If you really wanted to, you could also just swap into the quick form of Nami and Karina, and then use the special. That will also remove the enemy's defense up. So really, Nami and Karina, every single treasure map gets around everything. It's just, this character is literally the best legend in the game, in some arguments. But anyways, what else do we have to deal with? So on stage 2, we'll have damage covered, we'll have orbs covered, we'll have the gimmicks easily with the Hack. Then on the final stage, there's the boundary, the chain coefficient reduction. Sabo special will reduce that, and then the chain lock, as we discussed prior, will be negated before we even get into the final stage. Now the enemy will have the same effect of reducing the amount of turns of our buffs, but this time it's an attack and orb boost. So they of course want you to use Koala and Hack, who both give you 3 turn attack and orb boosts, which will be reduced down to 1 turn with the intimidation. So since this team does use both of them, we don't have to really worry about that. We will have an attack and orb boost still. Yeah, really there's nothing else happening on the final stage. There's a chain minimum attack down So we do actually have to worry about that to an extent. What does Karasu and Omae do again? They're just kind of there as a revolutionary army tag unit. They don't do much in actuality. So you can actually use this character before your other specials on the final stage. So before Koala, Hack, before Koala, as well as your friend Captain Sabo special, because he will actually buff the damage boosting effects that they provide by 0.5, which is really nice. And they'll provide us with a base attack boost and cooldown, because why not? One thing you want to make sure is actually add a support for cooldown, well, not cooldown, but for a base a chain boost, so you can get around the chain minimum attack down. Let me just quickly look here. Actually, that is not a concern. Okay, just ignore that. Ignore the Miyok and Perona. Go back to using the Hancock. The reason I say that is that Hack actually extends the chain boundary from Sabo, so it will actually last for the final stage as well. Just look at Hack special, which we will be using on stage 2. If you have 4 Revolutionary Army Tag units, which we do have, he will also extend the chain multiplier lock effect by 1 turn, which also includes chain boundaries. So this is a very powerful effect, of course. But that's about it for the team. Hancock's just there for point boost and damage on the final stage. You could also use Big Mom, but she will give you less effects. I mean, yeah, you could technically use Big Mom with the Flampe support, which will give you a conditional attack boost. That definitely could work. Let me just show you what I mean. So Big Mom will give you a not a chain boundary, a conditional attack boost of 2.5x if you have a recovery G or similar or 1 orb on her when you use the special. We don't really care about the color affinity. Sabo provides one anyways, but she will actually buff the color affinity from Sabo's super type, so Big Mom is actually a lot better to use than Hancock. But yeah, the conditional boost, she doesn't proc it. It's for defense down and delay. Since the enemy is not immune to defense down, we can actually use this character, very old unit, Flampe, which will give the enemy a bit of a defense down. So she can be used, and then we can also have Big Mom adjacent to your Nami and Karina. So when you use Nami and Karina swap effect to give the adjacent characters a G orb, you can actually keep the one on Big Mom, and then you'll have that for the final stage and get an extra 2.5x damage. That's just my 2 cents though. I mean, it's an extra 2.5x damage, which is very substantial, especially later on. So definitely a consideration you may want to use. Of course, we have an extra drop from Nami and Karina being the captain. But that's about it for the team. The specials we want to use, but the main damage effects that we have here is on stage 3, you will have Dex territory from, I think, Morley's special. No, Sabo special. You'll have class advantage, a chain growth buff from Sabo, a chain 3.0x minimum from Sabo, enemy 1.5x weakness from Sabo. If you're wondering how we're getting the tap timing bonus damage to proc the effect from Sabo's special, where he gives the weakness, it's from Morley's super type, which will give the 5-turn tap timing bonus. Really good synergy between those guys. You also have a 2.75x attack boost. You won't have an orb boost, but you could just use a support for that. And then you can also get a 2500 base attack from the Morley special and a 2.5x color affinity. Actually 2.8x, because you get the Big Mom buff, in addition to a 2.5x conditional attack boost, and of course super type. So that's about it for the team. Thank you guys for watching. If you have any questions about these teams, ask them down below. But with all that being said, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace, and I'm out. I did say I was going to show you guys the teams with Sabo as well. These are it. You don't have to worry about the one against the final boss there. This is just if you don't have Big Mom expanded. See, I'm using it on one of my mini boss teams for damage. So there's no way of getting around the hunger on stage 2. So we use the Luffy treasure map recruit supports to give us a recovery orb. And then we have these bind reduction supports of Karasu, Sentomaru, and Buggy for 5 turns of bind reduction, and then the ship for the last turn of bind reduction. We have Atlas there for 6 turns of damage reduction removal. Milk and Perona, just like on this team that I showed you guys, to reduce the special bind and give a conditional attack boost. Hack and Koala function the exact same, and we just use Sabo special on both stage 2 and stage 3 since we have double Sabo. The Intrusion is really, I don't even need to explain that team, guys. It's a very basic team, and it works basically the exact same as I showed you guys with the other team here with Karasu and Mole. Just Sabo instead of Karasu and Mole, which is essentially the exact same activation order. But what I'm going to do is, since I'm using my 5+ Big Mom on one of the mini boss fights, I have a 5-star Big Mom saved. So once I get my Super Evolution Skulls, I will use the 5-star Big Mom on this fight instead of Atlas. She will remove the damage reduction just like Atlas, and she will also get around the hunger stacks with the Sailor ability to give the bottom row recovery orbs. In which case we can remove the Luffy support and just replace it with Legend Halloween Ace support with 3 turns of bind reduction. You can remove some of the supports here like Buggy and also Karasu and Mole, and you will also get your 6-turn bind reduction. But that's about it. See you guys in the next one. Peace, and I'm out.